All right. Got a no heat call on a TAM 7 air handler TRANE heat pump, and cycled it on at the thermostat. Doesn't feel like the outdoor unit is on and running. While I'm in here, I just want to check a couple of things. Don't have any red lights flashing in the window, so typically if there's any kind of fault on this air handler, you're going to get some red alert lights. The newer models have the display. Here we're just looking for red lights. I don't have any. So I'm going to go over here real quick and get a quick check on an amp draw. So as you can see, we have, you can see that 20 amps on the heat strips. So I know that the heat strips are running and the outdoor unit is not running. So before I go in here taking all this apart, I'm going to go outside to the outdoor unit and see if I'm getting a call from the thermostat at that outdoor unit, and then we'll take it from there. So we're back up in the attic. Turns out this thermostat for this upstairs unit, some kind of quirky Honeywell thermostat that doesn't even respond to some of the touches. You know, see the picture. So anyway, that thermostat was set for emergency heat, and evidently the only way you could set it for regular heat was through his wireless app, because the touch screen on the thermostat doesn't respond properly. So I'm back up here. We have airflow. The heat strips are not running in regular heat mode due to a lockout for outdoor temperature. It's going to lock out the auxiliary heating. So I'm right here with the thermostat wires, and we're going to go ahead and start here first and verify whether or not we're getting a call from that thermostat. It may very well be the thermostat, the reason that outdoor unit's not running, but we'll find out. So I am getting a call from that thermostat for 24 volts. So we're going to head outside, see what's going on, and see if our problem's out there, because the thermostat's calling, the outdoor unit is not running, and the auxiliary heat works. We ran that in emergency heat mode, but with this setup, the way this is with the thermostats that he uses, there's going to be an outdoor sensor, and there's going to be a lockout for auxiliary heat with set at 40, 35, 30 degrees, whatever he has his lockout for. So we're going to go outside and see what we find. All right, guys, I'm at the outdoor unit now, and it was a little awkward up there in the attic. I'm going to turn off this other unit temporarily so it's a little quieter out here. Maybe that helps you hear, but the homeowner's not home. I'm really wary about recording, walking through people's houses, but he's not home. I've been dealing with him over the phone. His son is here, and why he's not in school, I don't know, but he's a little bit of a helicopter. He wanted to sit at the top of the stairs while I was up in the attic, so it was a little, you know, I don't know. It's one of those funny situations. But anyway, got the heat on upstairs, got the thermostat figured out. He's got that Honeywell thermostat up there. First time I've seen one of those. The home little touch icon on it didn't want to work, so I couldn't get it, and he explained to me that it doesn't. Anytime he changes the mode on that thermostat, he has to do it from his phone, and he works for Honeywell, so go figure about that. But anyway, we're outside. We had a call upstairs for heat. The air handler cycled on, the blower cycled on, heat strip working emergency heat. They're gonna have there's an outdoor temperature sensor right there. You see that? So there's a lockout set, and there's our sensor. There's a lockout set on that thermostat to control the heat strips, where they don't come on until it gets below a certain temperature outside. Auxiliary lockout. You got compressor lockouts. We typically don't set a compressor lockout. And yes, the umbrella is up again. It just seems like every time I want to do this, it's raining. Especially since I started doing this YouTube stuff. Maybe I've jinxed myself. I don't know. One day, hopefully, I can get a video going when it's a nice sunny day and it's not 38 degrees and raining. But anyway, let's get this thing opened up and see where we can figure out what's going on. Like I said, we've got a call for the outdoor unit from the thermostat. At least we do at the air handler, where it ties into your wires coming out here. So now we're going to see if we're actually getting it all the way out here, and if we are, why is this thing not running? So move that over. The thermostat wires, I'm not mistaken, are going to be connected back here. Of course they are, right there. So maybe I can get a little lighting. I've got my headlamp hanging around my neck. I wear the head strap for this camera, so the chest mount, I may try that a couple of times. It's just easier to kind of pop this on and off, tuck it in my bag, tuck it away, not walk around wearing it. People asking me questions, what are you doing? And like I said, I just I prefer not to record any video of me walking through someone's home or having a conversation with them, things like that. That's just me and how I do things. So we're going to come over here and find our common. We're going to find our Y. So this is going to be our Y right here, coming out to the outdoor unit. As you can see in this setup, it's breaking through another set of thermostat wire, a 2-wire. What we have here in North Carolina are these Duke Energy boxes, and I don't know how well you can see that thing, but it's right there, and it's nothing more than a voluntary load management device through the power company, and it allows them basically to cycle off your compressor when it's real hot in the summer, turn it off when you need it to be running the most. I think it's a gimmick. Some municipalities around here make it mandatory, and they put one on your house, and you can get fined if you get it disconnected. But I'm not, in favor of something cutting off my air conditioning when I need it the most to be working. But they do it to these neighborhoods, and here in Raleigh, North Carolina, they like to try to control the power grid and be able to do that. So it is what it is. So anyway, let's come over here and check our voltage coming to that box. And probably not that box. And I have found them a time or two where it was that box, but we will surely find out. So I'm going to check my voltage between common and Y coming from inside. I do have 24 volts coming out from inside. Now I am going to, because the contactor is not pulled in, by the way, so I'm hoping the refrigerant hasn't dumped out of this thing and it's out on low pressure. Let's hope not. If it's that box, I'll just bypass it and that'll be it. And I do have 24 volts coming back to the unit from that box. So next place I'm going to go is obviously going to be right over here to my contactor, common, Y, and I do not have any voltage. But if you notice, I have a red light flashing. And let me pause just a minute, I'm getting a phone call. Okay, pardon the interruption. So we've got a red light flashing, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 red lights flashing on this unit. The code list is right here, and 4 flashes. Hard lockout can only be cleared with a power cycle. So as you can see, there's nowhere on this unit to go back and check previous faults or stored faults or anything like that. So we're just going to have to turn this thing on, let it run, and see what happens, and reset it. And by resetting it, you simply just do a power cycle on your low voltage. See those lights go out. In the meantime, I am going to hook up to it real quick with some gauges. And while that thing's resetting, and here of course, what do you know, somebody has taken these caps, which are just meant to be finger snugged, and grabbed it with a wrench and tightened the crap out of it. And you're not supposed to fucking do that. It just drives me nuts. I mean, these, yeah, you snug them, they're hex sided. You snug them because they're flare locked. These plastic ones with the O-rings in them, you just finger snug them. And I'm betting there's not O-rings in them either. And the cores in them are probably pressed. I mean, there's not really any oil on the pipe, but it just drives me crazy, people that don't have any common damn sense to realize that you don't tighten these with a wrench. So yeah, it's got the O-ring in it, thank God. But yeah, you don't tighten these, dude. You don't tighten these with the wrench. You just finger snug them tight with your fingers. So anyway, that's my rant on common sense things. So let's turn this thing on here in a minute. Let me grab my other phone and turn on my job link and hook these things up. Let's see, hopefully they're still connected with this phone. I use these things on 2 different phones. As you can see, I use this one to kind of catch the view while I'm recording, make sure I'm shooting in the right direction. You can kind of see what I'm working on. So standing pressure in this thing is 119 degrees. It's about 38 outside. For a unit that's been off and is not hot, the compressor is cold and not running, that's probably pretty close to what our standing pressure is. But for R22 at 410A at this temperature, but it still doesn't tell you how much is in there. So God, I thought I was going to get to use these things today. Still haven't used them yet, but they're ready to go. All right, let's turn this thing on and see what happens. So I'll reset that, reconnect it. It'll go through a little time delay, and eventually it'll fire off, and we'll watch this thing and see what it does. See what kind of pressures we're getting. While we're there, I want to confirm I've got my 244 volts coming to the bottom of the contactor. But yeah, here's the temperature sensor, and it just goes back in there to that thermostat or any other thermostat that you want to connect up there that allows you to go in and set a lockout. Some people put the mechanical outdoor switches on these things, and you run your auxiliary 24 volts out here through that switch back to the air handler. Whatever you dial that switch in at, once the temperature drops below it, it will reset, or it'll close and reroute that signal all the way through back to the air handler and allow the heat strips to come on when it's cold. So anyway, waiting on this thing. I don't know that these I don't think these train boards allow you to, some of them you can speed up and bypass the time delay on it. I don't think this one will allow you to do that, so we're just gonna wait for our call. Let's confirm that our call is here. Common. This is my YN, maybe. One of these is. Should be. There's my Y. There's number 3 right there. And I am not getting 24 volts. I don't think that thing over there is. Somebody's dog's barking. So something here, we have lost our 24 volts coming from that box all of a sudden, which I hate those damn things. If I've got it here, now I don't have it here, so hopefully Junior is not up there playing with the thermostat. Let me go up there and check. It may be in a delay. When I unplugged it, maybe it reset it or something. I don't know. I'll be back. All right, we're back outside. I went in, for whatever reason, that thermostat reset itself when it got a call to this thing. And I'm not sure why. Typically, you unplug this and reset the board, plug it back up. There's a delay in the board, and then eventually it resets and the unit comes on. So what I've decided to do is disconnect that load management box that's hanging over here on the wall, right up there. And I'm just going to jump this out. I've got my 24 volts coming back. The thermostat's reset. It's come back into a call. I've already ohmed out the contactor. The contactor ohms out at 13, so I don't think the contactor was a problem. But we're getting ready to jump this thing out and see if it comes on and see what happens this time. Yep. It's going to reset. If you slip off of that thing, it'll close, and then you hook back up again, it resets and starts that time delay all over again. So anyway, we have 24 volts here. And come back over to the board. I have 27 volts right there coming to the board. Now we're back on. So first thing I want to do is watch these pressures and see what happens with them. Let this thing run a little bit. And I don't know how well you can see what's on here or not, but we're all the way down to 56 on the suction pressure, down to 43, 42, 41. And what I'm going to do, so this thing doesn't trip out on low pressure, I'm going to hold the contactor in, because I don't want this thing tripping on me. I want it to run and stabilize a little bit and see what these pressures are going to do without having to reset it again. But I'm seeing 34 over 202. Now we're down to 30. You know, if I was running air conditioning, I think the blower wasn't running and my coil was starting to freeze up there, but we're running in heat. So if the blower wasn't running, obviously those pressures would be sky high in heat mode on a heat pump. So I'm guessing this thing is low on charge. And with this particular unit and that TAM 7 air handler, the first place I'm going to start is with the evaporator coil, because it's got that TRANE air handler, TAM, whatever it is, they all have those aluminum coils, and this one has made it quite far. But it's kind of odd that it was working 3 days ago and then suddenly it's not. So I'm gonna guess this thing has recently started leaking, and it's probably going to be a fairly large one. So let's go to the attic and find our leak. All right, Alright, so we're back up in the attic. Gonna check this coil, see if we can figure out where the leak is. I typically, with these units, come here first because, you know, that's typically the culprit most of the time with these TAM air handlers and these aluminum coils. So we're going to start with that and see what we can come up with. I have the H10 Pro. I also use a leak seeker, CPS leak detector. Gotten real good use out of the H10. I break it out from time to time. Really good leak detector. Really bad coil. So we'll go around and see what we can come up with. There's a little bit of oil residue back in here, which is not unusual because this blower sits on that side of the coil. So it's pulling the air through here, and sometimes the way this thing is, the turbulence in here, you can have a leak in here and the oil just kind of spackles all over the place. So that's usually your first indication that you have a leak. But with these air handlers, usually, thought maybe I had something. Usually with these air handlers, these U-bends and these joints right here will leak. How well you can see that. But usually when it's leaking, it's going to be oily and it'll be dark compared to the rest of them. And actually there's another video I'm going to put up and I'm going to show you that. But anyway, let's see if we can find this leak. I was picking up a little something right there. This H10, it'll beep a little faster when you find the leak. It's got that little red light on the end of it that flashes. It'll flash faster. So start down here at the bottom. Oh my goodness. Well, there we are. Well, I do believe we have found our culprit. So that's the reason that unit was locked out on a hard lockout. If it goes out on low pressure so many times, it's going to recycle and eventually it's going to do a hard lockout, shut the outdoor unit off, heat or cooling will quit working. Obviously, homeowner's going to notice that. They're going to call, and then we come out and find the problem. So there you are, another TRANE TAM air handler. Leaking. So TRANE's good equipment. I still prefer TRANE, but all the manufacturers are switching to these aluminum coils now, and they're softer, and the heat brazing in these things, especially in these U-bends at the factory, is not always great, but it is what it is. So I'm going to wrap this one up, get their pricing for their coil. This thing is only 5 years old, believe it or not. So we will get a warranty quote for replacing the coil or charging the system back up. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks for watching. And when it comes to TRANE, you gotta love it.